Hey, Rainbow here, how are ya? Have the Ducati Multistrada V4S out for tonight. I do have the panniers on. Gonna see what this looks like. I tried with some video the other day and wasn't happy with it. I think my ISO setting was too high and everything was really bright. Hopefully I have this set up to where you can see the gauges pretty well. We shall find out in here. Anyway, Ducati Multistrada V4S at night. The first thing I'm going to tell you is this is the way it came right from the dealer. I am not too happy with, if you can see here, the setup for the headlights. It's honestly really short. I mean, it's maybe goes about 30 feet in front of me at the most, so the more speed you pick up, the more useless they are. Of course, that goes for any sort of headlights, but in this case, I think that they're just a little bit too pointing down. I know there are limitations in Italy and so on and so forth, but this is a little bit much. Now, if I, well, let me wait for this car so I don't blind them. Now, if I turn the high beams on, okay, not too shabby, can't complain, but still, I think that they're going to need to be adjusted. I don't know if I want to adjust them or I'm just going to have them adjust when I get my first servicing done, which is going to be in about 3 days. It's Monday, February 8th, and I have them set up for my 600-mile service on Thursday. That was the nearest appointment they had. I picked it up on a Thursday, and I'm dropping it off on a Thursday. Anyway, yeah, so this is what you see at night. I could see that the headlights are making a bit of a turn for me to look around the corner. You see the angle? All right. I think that part's working. I just don't think, what you should do is just go right in front of me. That's what you should do. Just go right in front of me. Anyway, pay attention, slow down when you need to. I saw the car there. I was already kind of rolling off because every time I come to an intersection, you know, I got to keep your head on a swivel. Just don't trust anybody. And of course, that was the case. If I would have been picking up speed and wanted to drive like an idiot, we all know how that would have ended, especially with a longer, I think that was a van, all right? Much wider or longer to get past you when they're broadside, all right? So this is the view. Again, not really happy with the headlight setup here, but I need to test them out. Now that looks like it's a little bit further ahead, but still, in my opinion, not good enough, all right? I'm gonna roll it back here and keep this at about 60, which is still a little over the speed limit, but just want to work within the limits of my headlights, to be quite honest with you here. And I'll find out and I'll give you some follow-up on this. So I am currently in touring mode. I love touring mode in general. It's smooth and it's got a lot of get up and go. I really have no complaints. There's another one. Okay, look, turn, all right. And I do put it in sport mode. Sport mode seems to really kick butt, but honestly, while I'm doing the break-in period, I just don't see the point in keeping it in sport mode too much, because when it's in sport mode, you kind of want to drive it like it's in sport mode, and being limited to 6,000 RPM, well, you know, kind of like having a thoroughbred and just only being allowed to trot with it. So I don't want to screw things up. I have gone a little past the 6,000 RPM a few times, but I think that shouldn't be a problem. All right, somebody else is coming, and what are they going to do, right? All right, but they're changing lanes. Okay, and they're going to an outside lane, so lots of space here. Well, there we go. So, welcome to riding at night. So, I don't know if the fact that my headlights point down is also affecting other people's ability to see me and maybe even judge my distance. So that's something else that I'm really curious about, very curious about, to see how that affects them. All right, looking good. So it's one thing when someone's headlights are kind of shining relatively close to your eyes or illuminating part of your car or giving you some reflections on your vehicle. And it's another thing if the headlights aren't even reaching you because they're pointing down in the ground so far, which is obviously a concern. Now, when I get in a more well-lit area like this, it's not as much of an issue. Matter of fact, in South Florida, we often have people who are driving around with no headlights at all in areas like this. And that's something else we have to keep an eye out for. It just seems like riding at night in a car, you have to keep your head on a swivel, and on a motorcycle, you really do have to keep your head on a swivel. I am guaranteed that that's going to have to happen. So right now I have 572 miles on this bike. I picked it up on Thursday night, and then only put a couple miles on driving it home because it was getting dark out quick, and I only had a dark visor on because it took longer to pick up the bike. And spent a lot of time on Friday, left work a little early, and then come Saturday, the weather was hit and miss, so I got a little bit more time on it on Saturday, and then on Sunday was pretty much a bust for the most part. Make sure these people can see me making this turn. The brakes, having Brembo brakes that are dual. Now this bike is lighter than my Indian Scout Bobber that only had one disc front brake. This has dual Brembos. So I really kind of settled in on this bike to where I just use my middle finger for braking. I mean, that's really, look, that's all you need. I mean, you just don't need anything more than that. Hey buddy, you see me? All right. So these brakes are so good, and I'm not used to having brakes like this, that just using your middle finger for the brake is honestly more than sufficient. And I think even in an emergency, because I've done some practice, some emergency braking practice, and yeah, it's more than than sufficient. It also has ABS, it has cornering ABS. There's so many things that this bike has. I'm really happy with it. But one of the things about using and you probably can't see it at all because it's dark out, but one of the things about just using your middle finger for the front brake is that allows you to really control your throttle and come off and make sure you're staying off, because I have my pointing finger, my forefinger, and my thumb kind of wrapped around. So if I want to just rest my middle finger on it while I'm going in case I need it in an emergency, I believe it's quicker than me having to remove my hand and reach up and grab. It might only be a fraction of a second, but a fraction of a second could, be a big difference, all right? People behind me are coming up a little fast tonight. Don't know what the deal is. So I'm going to stay like I normally do in this lane. And over to the right, so in case something happens, I'm ready to scoot out of here. My biggest concern with this bike, honestly, is that could people see me? That's really it. I kind of love when I'm around the newer, better cars because they have the sensors on the sides and they give people the indication in their mirrors. But that's not foolproof. See, the cornering on this is really, this thing is nice to lean. the Indian Scout bobber had a 29-degree lean angle, and I was constantly scraping pegs, and scraping pegs was sort of my notification that, hey, hard parts are coming soon. So I have those little feelers on the bottom of my pegs on the Indian Scout bobber that, you know, they start getting worn off. They're just like a little castle nut, or not castle nut, I forgot the word, when they have those dome-shaped nuts on there that wear off, and you can just replace them so that, you know, you get your feelers back. But I felt comfortable with them because I knew that once I hit that point, I'm done, you know, so I can scrape, but if I feel it angling up more, then I know I may be asking for some trouble. Now, getting used to this quick shifter was easier than I thought. Never had a quick shifter, and I especially never had a quick shifter up and down. I did attempt urban mode. Urban mode, if you never rode a bike like this before, that's taller and has this much power, I think starting off on urban mode is certainly the way to go. For sure, urban mode would definitely be the way to go. It is smooth as silk, as so is touring mode. Very smooth. I did think that in sport mode, when you're just beeping around town and you keep it in sport mode, it doesn't, you know, the bike just wants to go, and I think it's expecting you to shift at higher RPMs, so it seemed a little jumpy to me. I'm paying attention to people behind me because I just don't trust them, nor should we ever. But it's much smoother in touring mode and in urban mode. Now, when would I use urban mode? Me personally, I think if I was in some heavy rain or some slicker conditions, I think that urban mode would come in really handy. So I'm going to call urban mode really rain mode. I know other bikes call it rain mode. You know, they have a rain mode. That's what I would call this. Okay. Have my escape path somewhat. It's a bike lane. I don't want to block it, but I want to be on the edge and pointing out of the way in case the people behind me don't stop. So sport mode is really balls out strong and not as smooth, but it's still damn smooth. I will give it that. So I kind of just leave it in touring mode, to be quite honest with you. It seems to be like my mode of choice. Now, once this thing is broken in and I want to go somewhere and have some fun, yeah, I'm probably going to put it into, you know, sport mode. But doing like what I'm doing right now, it makes absolutely no sense to have this thing in sport mode. Urban mode might be a decent choice because I'm coming from stoplight to stoplight. It's not really fast, and that's about it. Now, one other thing that I've noticed is that this thing does a pretty darn good job of protecting you from the wind. That's a guarantee, I will tell you that. Right now, my wind protection, I think, is excellent. Now I have it down or up, and what I'm finding out is it's really hot in South Florida, even in January, it's February, you know, and we've had days, look at it, it says the air is 78 degrees out. Well, guess what? The air is probably 78 degrees right now, and it gets hot. So what's happening is the vents on my helmet don't really work very well, especially the one that's near your mouth, you know, at your chin. It really doesn't work because there's no airflow on it. So I have a tendency to get heated up a lot quicker than I did on the Indian Scout bobber, where I had zero wind protection. Now, when you're on the highway, it's not going to matter a whole lot because you still have a lot of airflow in general. If you want, you can always push the windscreen down. I have it up because I don't want any additional wind coming in, but I'm noticing that compared to being on the Indian Scout bobber, my visor has a tendency to fog up a lot more. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to head over to 95. I'm going to go on the interstate and just head home. I didn't want to make this too long. I want to make sure that we have enough information on this bike so that you kind of see what it's like and hear it and get a feel for this bike. And that's all I'm doing. So you know, enjoy the ride, enjoy not much of a view, but really a view of the bike and me talking because of issues. But yeah, let's all be careful out there, and I should be getting onto the interstate here in about a minute or two. And I'm just kind of laying back on this a little bit. So you're going to see what kind of power this thing has without pushing it really hard. I'm going to kind of tap out at 6,000 RPM. Now, with that being said, when I get the 6th gear and cap it at 6,000 RPM, the bike taps out at 90 miles an hour. That's it. So once we get to 6,000 RPM, which I'm limiting myself to, you know, there's not like a built-in limiter that they turn off during break-in. This is me limiting myself to 6,000 RPM. That equates to about 90 miles an hour. And that's about as fast as you're going to go during your break-in period. It looks like I have about 22 more miles to go before I hit my break-in period. And I'm going to way exceed that. I told them that I'm going to be putting a lot of miles on it. I asked them, hey, like, give me an idea of where I can be, you know, how high I can go. And they told me, just try to keep it under 1,000. So I'm going to keep it under 1,000. So let's get on the highway here. And 95 is not one of my favorite. There are a lot of crazy drivers, but it seems like it's not too bad tonight. I'm not too thrilled about my headlights, as you can see where it's dark here. But the highway is pretty well lit for the most part for the area that I'm going to be in. And let's see what happens here on the interstate. Okay, so I was on the edge of the pavement there, and the edge of that pavement was, it kind of wiggled the bike a little bit because there's an edge where one part of it's paved and part of it isn't, so there is a bit of an uneven edge. And I felt it, but it was controllable. You know, it really wasn't bad. You can see where I'm at. Double check, don't just trust my mirrors. And I'm only going to go up a couple exits. They're relatively close. It's probably getting louder in here with the wind. If I duck down in here, I'm sure it's a lot better. But this is the windscreen. They do make a touring windscreen. So there's a windscreen that is bigger than this one. I was going to order it with it already on it as an extra, but I thought about it and I was like, well, let me see how good it is first, and then I'll make a decision after that. So right now it's pretty good. I can feel the wind on my shoulders, really not much at all on my head, but definitely my arms and my shoulders, we can certainly feel that a decent amount. But really, really smooth. If I had the Indian Scout bobber out doing this, which I've done, I would just be getting myself beat up. You're a lot lower. You don't have as good of a view around other vehicles. And this has really good, where are we at? Really good cruise control. The only problem is that right now in the United States, one of the reasons I purchased this bike was because it had the forward and reverse forward-looking radar. And with that radar, it has adaptive cruise control and also senses people coming up behind you, and it gives you a notification here on the on your side mirrors. Now, unfortunately, that hasn't been approved yet in the United States. So if you purchase this bike and want to try it out on day one, you're not. I'm being told that it's going to be a little while before that comes out, and we shall see what happens. Now, I was going to get off this exit. I decided I'm not going to. And I'm going to go up one more exit past this one, which is my actual exit. I just like getting off this one because it's actually easier. Now, rolling off the throttle like I just did, because this guy hit his brakes, it slowed me down. But what that does is it kind of surprises people behind you who maybe aren't expecting that. So what I've been doing is I've been just tapping. When I roll off the throttle, I'll tap my rear brake just a little bit, just enough to activate the brake light. Okay, I'm looking behind me and I can see the barrels lighting up as I tap the brake, so I know it doesn't need much pressure at all in order to do that. All right, trying to keep my distance here. Not going to use the cruise control because I wasn't going to be on here, and this traffic really doesn't lend itself to cruise control. It makes it a little difficult, but again, the pressure on this bike when you roll off the throttle, it really wants to slow it down, even in 6th gear. And I'll just give you an example here. Often I don't touch my brake at all, and literally until I'm just ready to stop, because I downshift the entire way. Agree with me or disagree, doesn't matter, it's what I do. All right, so I'm doing about 72, just gonna roll off. Look how quickly, and that's just from rolling off the throttle. Look at, see how quick, just rolling off the throttle, it really came down a lot. All right. And this quick shifter, I'll tell you, it's a spoiler. It really spoils you to have a quick shifter like this, especially that you can quick shift down. Now, I try not to downshift, to use the quick shifter to go down into first, because for me, first gear, you know, you have to come out of it with a clutch. I think you should get into it with a clutch also, for sure. All right, how many cars are going to stack up behind me before I feel comfortable here? So, 1, 2, only 2 cars behind me. Everybody seems to be slow coming down. So I'm always looking in my rearview mirrors all the time when I come to a stoplight, because I really just don't trust that people are going to stop in any direction. So, to be heading home, and there's lots more to talk about. I really would appreciate if everyone would put some comments asking some questions, and then maybe I can put together a video that you would like, that maybe answer some questions. Again, I haven't even had this bike 5 days now. Thursday, I picked it up Thursday night, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm on day 4 with the bike. I already have almost 600 miles on it, and really got used to it very quick. The bike practically rides itself, to be quite honest with you. I haven't been on a tall bike like this since I was doing dirt biking, of course. And with that being said, coming from a cruiser where I'm so low and have such a low center of gravity has, you know, you really get used to that. And it's been decades, literally decades, since I've been on something tall like this. And really, it didn't take long to readjust. I would say maybe within the first 200 miles, and a lot of that was out on the highway and out on remote highways, you know, that don't get a lot of traffic, because I really wanted to get this thing set up. All right, so here we go. See, now I'm using my clutch to downshift. I'm not 100% yet with this system, with this quick shifter. And the turning radius has been awesome on this. The lean angle, not just the turn radius, but like the lean angle. has been really, really good on this bike. And like coming into parking lots, this is something better to do during the day, but just coming in to parking areas and just, you know, doing your turns, I mean, it's real easy. If there was cars parked on both sides, I'd still be able to do that. And it seems to really, like, you don't need a lot of speed to get a lot of lean angle, and I'm leaning, you know, way past where I was with my other bike. Anyway, Rainbow out. Please like and subscribe. I like doing this for fun. Don't really need the money, and I don't make any money because this isn't monetized or anything, but I just like sharing information. So if you like any of this, yeah, like it, subscribe, whatever. I'm putting information out there. If you can use it, you can use it. If you can't, you can't. And when I say I don't need the money, we all need money. I'm just saying I don't rely on this to pay bills, because number one, it doesn't pay anything to begin with, and that's not the point of this. All right, have yourself a good one.